work in educating prosecutors, officers, and even parents on the special issues facing juveniles.
What special issues are you referring to?
Well, juveniles react very differently to special tactics than adults do. For instance, if a police officer is trying to question a juvenile, that juvenile may act in a way that, quite frankly, isn't in their best interest, and may even start to contradict themselves under questioning.
Could you describe some of the typical outcomes of juveniles being treated like adults?
Yes. The most common outcome is a false confession. Research has shown that juveniles make many more false confessions than adults do.
What causes a juvenile to make a false confession?
Juveniles are very susceptible to coercive police pressure, if you will.
Objection or lack of foundation.
Response?
Your Honor, this witness has just testified that he is an expert in the field of child psychology and knowing the effects that traumatic events can have on individuals. So therefore, under Rule 702, he has the expertise to make this opinion.
Your Honor, if I may refer you to 702 to give opinions as an expert witness, as they're attempting to do.
One moment, let me get to 702. Actually, that was easier than I thought. Yes, okay.
As they're trying to give testimony as an expert witness, you must lay the foundation that it is based on sufficient facts and data. It is a product of reliable principles and methods, and that those principles and methods have been applied reliably to the facts and data. They have not done any of that, meaning that this expert cannot testify as an expert.
Any response to that?
Your Honor, I'd be happy to lay the foundation that opposing counsel has just referred to.
That makes life simpler. Let's do that.
Motion to strike any testimony that was given as an expert opinion.
Granted.
Dr. Bashir, what material did you review when preparing for today's case?
Beyond a statement written by Jesse Duran, I also reviewed the affidavits of Officer Dale Williams, as well as the affidavit of Hayden Duran.
And did you reach a conclusion based on this information?
That I did.
Are your conclusions based on sufficient facts and data?
Of course.
Did you use reliable principles and methods?
Absolutely.
And did you apply these methods to the facts of today's case?
Certainly.
Now, what information did you use in analyzing Jesse's confession?
Well, you see, when dealing with witness recall, you have to look specifically at the way that memory works. It's key. Memory is absolutely key to a witness's ability to recall events. As I was reading through Jesse's statement, it became clear to me that...
Objection to relevance.
Response?
Your Honor, as the witness is giving his opinion of how this traumatic event affected Jesse's recollection and the events that occurred after an incident on August 18th, this is completely relevant to today's case.
May I respond?
Yes.
They're talking about a written statement that has not been introduced. Because of that, it does not make any fact more or less probable in this case. Neither side has introduced a confession of any sort.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Yes.
If you'll allow me to continue with the following line of questioning, I will introduce this momentarily, this statement.
Then I will overrule the objection on that limited basis.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you review anything that might have indicated that Jesse was impacted by this trauma?
Yes, a statement written by Jesse Duran right after the incident is really the clearest example.
Let the record reflect that I'm showing opposing counsel what is previously marked as Defense Exhibit A.
No objection to the authenticity of this document, Your Honor.
Permission to approach the witness.
Granted.
Thank you.
Dr. Bashir, what is this?
This is a written statement written by Jesse Duran after the incident of August 18th.
Is it a fair and accurate copy?
That it is.
Your Honor, at this time I ask that Defense Exhibit A be entered into evidence.
Any objections?
Yes, Your Honor. Objection to hearsay.
Response?
Your Honor, pursuant to Rule 703, an expert is allowed to testify to otherwise inadmissible facts, such as hearsay, if it meets two qualifications. The first is if the expert would reasonably rely upon this information when forming his conclusion. And the second is if the prejudicial effect, the probative value, outweighs the prejudicial effect. In this case, Dr. Bashir is making a testimony about the effects and how it affected Jesse's recollection. This is evidence that is relevant to today's case.
Go ahead.
Respond.
I'm gonna overrule the objection.
Yes, Your Honor, just to keep this moving.
Permission to approach and tender a copy to the bench.
Yes, granted.
Dr. Bashir, could you please read this statement out loud for the court?
Certainly. The statement is noted for August 18th, 2010. I shot Sydney Park in the head.
Objection to hearsay.
He's reading, response? I'll let
Your
you
Honor,
respond
this
first.
document has just been entered into evidence, so therefore it is not hearsay.
May I respond?
Yes.
Pursuant to 703, this witness can give an opinion on this document, but they cannot read directly from it. That is hearsay.
It has already been admitted into evidence, so any objections to any statements within this, I mean, this is already in front of the jury, so I'm going to overrule the objection.
Yes, Your Honor.
Dr. Bashir, could you please continue reading this statement?
Certainly. I shot Sydney Park in the head. No one ever told me how dangerous real guns could be. Hayden Duran told me that real guns are just like the ones in video games. Sorry, Jesse Duran.
And where do you see signs of Jesse behaving abnormally in this statement?
Quite frankly, there are a surprising amount of them. First and foremost, both the full date is noted at the top, as well as Jesse's full name. This is, quite frankly, odd for juveniles. Furthermore, she refers to her mother, Hayden Duran, by her full name, where usually a juvenile would refer to a parent as a mother or a father or mom or dad. Finally, the statement in general is written in a very formal tone, which is entirely unlike most juveniles.
So what does this lead you to conclude?
This leads me to conclude that Jesse Duran was under an increasing amount of pressure after being introduced to a completely foreign situation. Her best friend had just been killed, which is an entirely foreign and new experience. This could have had a damaging effect on her psyche for that morning.
And what other important events happened after Sydney's death that might have impacted her recollection?
Well, after Sydney's death, Jesse was taken into the kitchen and held by 2 police officers.
And why is that important?
Well, in between the foreign event of Jesse's friend dying, she was also taken into custody by 2 police officers without being able to meet with her mother or any of such. That means that she was moved from one foreign experience to another, displacing her state of mind.
Now, overall, Dr. Bashir, what were you able to conclude about Jesse's behavior and statements after the incident on August 18th?
From what I have seen, I have led to conclude that Jesse was not in a proper state of mind after the events of August 18th, and therefore anything that Jesse said or did during that morning is not entirely reliable.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions. Permission to retrieve the statement.
Absolutely. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
Dylan Ballback for the plaintiff. May I inquire?
Mhm.
How are you doing this morning?
Fairly well, thank you. Yourself?
Not too bad. You were hired by Hayden Duran to analyze the confession.
Certainly.
There are 3 general types of false confessions.
That's true.